My first guest is the Executive Vice President of the National Taxpayers Union, Brandon Arnold. Thanks for coming back on the program. So who's right, Biden or Friedman?
That's a loaded question. It's always Friedman. Every single time it's Milton Friedman that's right. Very rarely. I can't think of any instances where Joe Biden has been right. But this is crazy to talk about the American Rescue Plan Act. You know, economists at the Fed in San Francisco said that boosted inflation by 3 percentage points. So he's pouring gasoline on the fire and he's looking for the arsonist. It's unbelievable.
But what happened to the Putin price hike? You just heard Friedman. This kind of blaming everyone but the actions in Washington. I mean, I don't know who believes this stuff. And if someone says, well, Andrew, if you guys were so right, you would have had a big red wave. Just because there is much ignorance surrounding economics in our country does not mean that we're wrong.
No, absolutely. And we set aside the Republicans' PR issues and their lack of vision for getting debt under control, getting inflation under control. I think that was the reason there wasn't a huge red wave. People don't like Biden. His numbers are horrible. People don't like congressional Democrats. Their numbers are horrible. The problem is we haven't articulated a vision, a free market vision, a limited government vision that will get prices back under control and get people the jobs they need, paying the wages that they need. The economy's a mess right now, and people are just frustrated with the options out there.
And the truth is, in 2018, Donald Trump, Mick Mulvaney, his OMB, they produced a budget with massive budget cuts. Just Ryan and McConnell wouldn't give it to them.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, every time we've tried substantive attempts to reduce the deficit, to reduce debt, it's just been larded up in the process. And they've undone so many of these mechanisms. Back in 2011, we passed the Budget Control Act. That was effective to an extent, but it was undone a half dozen times by members of Congress, including Republicans. Democrats and Republicans oftentimes decided we're going to fund our priorities with more money. You're going to fund your priorities with more money. Everybody wins. Of course, the people that lost were the taxpayers, people outside the Beltway that are now feeling the bite from inflation when they start in on this holiday season, when they try to buy anything over the past year and a half or so.
All right, so here we are, holiday season. I'm going to be reporting in my monologue, my argument segment next, that the Associated Press is reporting that food prices are set to rise yet again. We already saw families unable to afford a Thanksgiving turkey. We weren't saying that 3 years ago. So what are you watching as far as government spending and earmarks?
Yeah, I mean, everything's going to be more expensive this Christmas, just as it was for Thanksgiving. Most concerning to me is that alcohol prices are up 5 or 6%. That's very, very important to having a happy, sane holiday season in my household. But in terms of earmarks, I mean, that's a whole nother can of worms because House Republicans just agreed to have earmarks be part of the federal budgeting process. Again, of course, they killed them several years ago when Pelosi and the Democrats took over the House of Representatives. They brought them back. I was hopeful, maybe naively so, I was hopeful that Republicans would do the right thing and get rid of the earmarks, get rid of the teapot museums, the bridges to nowhere, all of the wasteful spending that contributes hundreds of billions of dollars to our national debt. They failed to do so. That's a very, very concerning development that just took place today.
You would think by now politicians don't win re-election or win hearts and minds by saying, hey, I didn't spend anything this year. We were just talking about Henry Hazlitt before the break. It's the seen versus the unseen. Vote for me because I brought this. Even if that is costing you more in tax dollars than you would have spent on yourself and your family's budget.
Yeah, it's a competitive game. I'm going to bring home the most bacon. I'm going to have ribbon-cutting ceremonies for bridges and new museums and whatever that are funded by taxpayers from all over the country. The problem is the way the process actually works is it rewards a very small sliver of members of Congress, people who are on the Appropriations Committee that gets to write the rules, gets to write the budget and decide where that money goes. So they get brand new shiny post offices and pickleball courts and all sorts of ridiculous spending items. And everyone else is left holding the bag. If they're serious about moving to a more congressionally focused spending program, they need to give members of Congress an up or down vote on each and every one of these earmarks. Let them say thumbs up or thumbs down to the Teapot Museum before it becomes part of law and before those costs are hoisted on the backs of our children.
I don't know about you, but my congresswoman is Mikey Sherrill, and I think funding the bisexual Asian transcendent yoga performance studio was a worthwhile expenditure.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, if everybody would vote for that, then I guess that's the way that Congress decided to spend that money. But those types of earmarks are buried deep deep into legislative text. There's no opportunity for amendment, no opportunity to remove ridiculous spending items like that one, or aerial droids in Alaska, or Little League stadiums in Massachusetts. All of these things are being built on the backs of taxpayers from all over the country. If they really want to move to a system where we're going to micromanage the federal government's spending decisions, that's fine. Give us an up or down vote on each and every one of those items and let people hold their congressional feet to the fire.
All right, so real quick before we wrap, we've got about a minute and a half. Janet Yellen's changed her tune. Inflation could go on for the next 2 years. And, the Democrats, at least President Biden and the Democrats in the Senate, think they have a mandate to continue their policies.
Yeah, I mean, that's concerning. What we're seeing right now in negotiations in this lame duck session of Congress. We had the election, but this Congress is around for a few weeks. They could be spending hundreds of billions or even trillions of dollars when you start to add up the numbers. But there's no real voter scrutiny of this because we're right behind the election. So we could see a major tax package. We could see more COVID dollars, more Ukraine dollars, disaster relief. All of this is not just tens of billions of dollars. It's potentially hundreds of billions of dollars or much, much more. Again, pouring fuel on that inflation fire. It's a huge, huge problem.
I always say this. The minute we cross the line of the majority of voters not paying taxes, not contributing to the spending will just go to, it'll be more the only people that will get elected will be the people that promise you more free stuff and more spending, and you're not paying for it, so what do you care? All right, I got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.